It's what we play in the gyms, the parks, the backyards, and on the street. It's a way of life. When grit and grind take over, it's unmistakable what can be born.
Forced him into the air and it's going to count.
Unmissable moments, undeniable talent. 24 on the clock, all eyes on the rock.
That's just extraordinary.
From street to stadium, country to coast, it's unstoppable.
Two more, thank you.
Tough defender, real competitor.
How about that?
No matter who we are or where we're from, nothing comes close to summer hoops.
All the answers here. The big fella. They are on fire.
Hungry Jacks NBL, unrivaled.
This is a world-class league.
From huge signings to key roster changes and everything in between, the hype is buzzing, and one thing is for certain, NBL23 is shaping up to be the most entertaining season in NBL history. Up in the Sunshine State, the Brisbane Bullets fired the biggest shot during the NBL off-season, securing 576-game NBA veteran Aaron Baines. Big Banger, as he's affectionately known, will play his first competitive basketball game in over 12 months, and it's back on home soil.
Firstly, an emotional story. I mean, the comeback that he's had to endure, it's unbelievable to see him even back with the basketball in his hands. And he knows he's an NBA level talent. So I think that's where, as an analyst, as a past player, that he's chosen the NBL to be his springboard back to the NBA speaks so highly of what the NBL has become as that legitimate pathway to the NBA.
Well, I think the Brisbane Bullets have put together an unbelievable team. They've upgraded their team from last season, and the big part of that is Aaron Baines. He is a superstar, NBA experience, European experience, won an NBA title with the San Antonio Spurs.
It's historic, really, because he's another one like Andrew Bogut, like Matthew Dellavedova, of those golden era boomers that have come to the NBL as part of their career. Now, he's trying to get back to the NBA, of course.
There's a pathway through the NBL now, which probably wasn't there over a decade ago, but it's something that's very solid right now. We've seen it multiple times over, and so yeah, it's amazing that I can put on this jersey and still have other goals that I want to reach, but have my family around.
And now he's in Brisbane, in the NBL, huge for the league.
There was a lot of months there where I didn't know if I'd ever run around with my kids, let alone get to run around on the court again. So a lot of emotions tonight. So much fun, kid in a candy store. Yeah, just loving it, having a blast out there with the fellas.
This is the big banger. He's on the floor, he's going to be throwing his body around, he's going to be launching terror screens in the half court. He is built like an NFL linebacker, but can move like an agile guard. One-on-one, there's no one in the league who can match up to the size and the strength of what Aaron Baines can bring.
He's going to have a huge impact on their culture, Aaron Baines, there in Brisbane, on the day-to-day at practice, but he hasn't played for a really long time. So how does his body hold up over the course of the season? Can he stay on the floor and have that impact, not just on the day-to-day at practice, but when the bright lights are on at game time? That's going to be massive for the Bullets.
If I'm going out there and busting my ass and the guy next to me isn't, then I'm going to hold them accountable, and I expect the exact same from them if I'm not busting my ass for them. So if we do that, then we're going to be buying into what we need to do defensively and offensively, and we'll be able to push each other and keep improving, which is what we need to do.
You look at his last couple of seasons in the NBA, he developed a three-point shot. Not only will he command respect down in the box, but the way in which he can spread the floor and knock down threes, he is going to be a handful.
I'm excited about the fact that Brisbane have a bunch of guys this season who want to sit down and play some defense. They've never been a team that's got much done at the defensive end since they came back to the league in 2016. And as a result, they haven't won a playoff game since they came back into the league. So the fact that they've got some guys they've brought in this season who are going to get some work done defensively gives them a chance to get some wins on the board.
I love James Duncan and the way in which he's come out in the front foot and made it patently clear to all his players that they've got a style of play that they want to play, they've got a culture that they're trying to develop, and if the players aren't buying in, they're out.
I think he's going to be a little bit more demonstrative, a little bit more authoritarian, and keeping his guys accountable.
X Factor is an interesting one for the Bullets because I think really it's their entire supporting cast. You've got Nathan Sobey, who when he's healthy is one of the best players in the league. Tyler Johnson's experience is going to be valuable from the NBA.
Johnson, strong finish underneath, and the Bullets, they're up and about.
And then Aaron Baines. So you've got their three-headed monster. Who's their supporting cast that's going to continue to come along for the ride? Maybe Devondrick Walker. He's their last import signing, more of a budget import signing. Once they incorporate all their superstars, if they can do that at a high level, they're going to be contending for a championship.
Over in the city of churches, the cash has been splashed, and Adelaide fans are praying the club's big off-season recruitment drive can take the 36ers to the Holy Grail.
Expecting to see a lot of excitement from the 36ers. They needed to make some really strong moves in the off-season.
They're sick of finishing 7th, the 36ers. 3 straight years finishing 7th. And ownership, the front office, the head coaches, they decided we're going to spend a bit of money, we're going to get some guys that are proven in this league, and we're going to put together a talented roster. So they went bang, bang early. Antonius Cleveland and Robert Franks.
I heard they were a package deal, so when they were coming out of their previous season, one with the Bullets and one with the Hawks, they were going around saying they wanted to team up together, wherever that was going to be. So to have those two have that conversation before the season starts means they know they can play alongside each other. Two of the most exciting new imports we saw in the NBL last season.
Antonius Cleveland, that's going to provide them some real punch on the defensive end, and when you consider him and Sunday Dench and what they can do defensively.
Craig Randall is the epitome of a walking bucket. Just watching him play in the G League, his young professional career, wherever he goes, a bucket follows. He's super exciting.
Well, they needed to add a perimeter scorer. That's why they went and got Craig Randall, because they had some defenders, Mitch McCarron, Sunday Detch, Antonius Cleveland, but none of those guys are knockdown shooters. So Randall is that final piece to the puzzle for Adelaide, and if he hits more than he misses over the course of the season, they're going to be good to go.
And then the big signing is Robert Franks. He was a star, in my view, last season. What he did with Brisbane, real versatile, inside, outside, tremendous athlete, can get up and down the floor.
It'll be very interesting to see what CJ Bruton does with the defensive lineup they have. They're a strong defensive unit with Mitch McCarron, Sunday Detch, Antonius Cleveland jumping on board. Craig Randall hasn't been known to be one of the strongest defenders, but if he's averaging 30, they'll probably let him get away with that, and he'll be really fun to watch.
That's the big question for me, for Adelaide this season. How well does Craig Randall's scoring and his game translate from what he did in the G League to the NBL? Because he was a bucket in the G League last season. 26, 27 points per game, but it doesn't always translate. And it's not like he's done that for year after year in his career so far. If it does, and he's an elite level scorer, Adelaide will have found a diamond in the rough. I think the ceiling is really high for Kai Soto. I think he has NBA upside.
When you've got that type of size in pick and rolls and throwing it up at the rim, and his mid-range is proven to be a real asset to him and hopefully the 36ers, but the improvement he needs is the work on the glass and how in which he can defend, particularly in those on-ball situations where he's got to guard some of those little guys getting downhill on him.
Kai Soto's destined for big things, and this could be a breakout year for him in the NBL.
Adelaide have one of the greatest fan bases in the league, and they're one of the most successful teams in the competition. But it's been 20 years since they raised the championship banner. But now they have a talented team that they can cheer for, and I think is going to be a championship contender.
They come out and said championship or bust. That's the tag that they're putting on themselves, and I think there's pressure that a lot of the players will thrive off, and I'm expecting nothing but fireworks and excitement. And if you're an Adelaide 36ers fan, this is the one year you want to jump on board because good things should happen.
With a huge fan base in the heartland of Australian hoops, South East Melbourne superstar Mitch Creek will lead the charge in a new-look Phoenix lineup.
The Phoenix force a turnover at halfway. Oh, yes, sir.
Well, they've got 3 brand new imports, the Phoenix. Obviously, Mitch Creek and Ryan Brockhoff are their kind of building blocks. The Phoenix, from a local perspective, And then in come 3 new imports, Trey Kell and Gary Brown in the backcourt, and Alan Williams, who is a rebounding machine up front.
And Trey Kell is going to be one of the best two-way players in the league. That's why they've signed him, to bring him in to their culture. They're going with an all-import backcourt for the first time, which I think is going to help.
Oh, I'm fascinated to watch Big Sauce, Alan Williams, this season.
Brown aggressive blocked. Harris got a piece of that, and there's Williams.
Has that NBA experience with the Phoenix Suns and is one of the world's great rebounders. I mean, when he was playing in Europe the last couple of seasons, he was absolutely eating glass. How well each one of those 3 guys goes in the NBL really will tell the tale of the Phoenix in their season.
The guys that we've brought in to be here with you guys all have that identity. We all have a lot to prove, the chips on our shoulders, a lot like this team. From what I've understood, it embodies the identity of this region of basketball, and we can make this area proud and make each other proud, and I think at the end of the day we'll get a good result.
And of course, Mitch Creek, MVP candidate the last couple of seasons. He has been fantastic, the way in which he's led this team, and no matter which way you cut it, a lot of that responsibility is going to fall back on his shoulders.
I think the missing pieces for the Phoenix for the last few seasons has just been a defensive identity. They've had no issues scoring the ball. Mitch Creek can fill it up at any stage. Kyle Adnam does what he does best. Ryan Brockhoff when he's rolling.
And of course, when there's such parity in the competition, breaks of the game become more significant. But I like the way they go about it. I like the way that they try to mix it up on the defensive end, and I think on the defensive end is the area where they can improve the most.
Well, it's going to take This is don't sugarcoat it. This is a poor performance.
That's the challenge. Have fun offensively, but get down and dirty defensively and on the glass. And if they can do that, they can contend for this title.
But we've seen enough to know when they are focused and they have their systems right, that Simon Mitchell can put together an outstanding defensive game plan. It's just a matter of doing that on a night in, night out basis and bringing that aggression every single night.
And we talk about how we want to identify. I don't think that's ever been an issue for us, but an identity we need to make sure we establish from the get-go. This is a working group. Let's put the hard hat on, let's go to work.
I think the pressure's on Simon Mitchell in a big way this season. Look, the pressure's on every NBL coach at all times, but they had a disappointing season under his helm last year, South East Melbourne, and it was the final year of his initial contract. They've backed him in, and credit to South East Melbourne for doing that. We see time and time again in sport, when you back a good coach in, you generally reap the rewards, and that's what they're hoping to do the Phoenix this season.
Can they buy into it this season? Well, it started well with recruitment, but we know when the season starts, it's a completely different ballgame.
The job now falls on Simon Mitchell to get all those pieces to work together, and if he can do that, they've got a championship contending roster.
What excites me most about the Phoenix this season is they're ready to take another step. They've recruited exceptionally well in the off-season. They made the semi-finals 2 seasons ago. They want to go 2 steps further. This could be the year.
The countdown is on. After playing only a few games on their home floor in the past 2 seasons due to the COVID border closure, it will be an emotional time when the New Zealand Breakers make their long-awaited entrance into Spark Arena in round 2.
Definitely not a surprise with all the changes to New Zealand, starting with their head coach, Stan Shamir, moved on. What they went through in the last 24 months, no one, unless you were in those walls, in those locker rooms, could ever understand how hard it was to be away from your family for so long. And not surprisingly, they had to make some big roster moves, including the head coach moving on, just to give it a fresh start. They've gone through some really tough times. They've brought back some local exciting talent, Isaiah Liafa, they're bringing in Cam Glidden, but their import pieces, I think, is what's going to be really exciting to see how they play and that new style of game that they've been waiting for.
Starting line up out there, at least for the first half of the quarter.
Is Brown Jr. on the attack, lefty finish. Rob Lowe, my oh my, he's up and about.
It is going to be fantastic for the New Zealand Breakers to finally experience a home court advantage. And the home court advantage of them is not just about having the fans in the stands screaming for them and playing in a venue that you're familiar with. It's about being able to sleep in your own bed, being able to be surrounded by your family and friends. That is way more important than any physical environment and the fans that you are fortunate to be surrounded by.
No doubt the improvement for the Breakers comes on the defensive end. Defensively, Mody Mayo has come out and said that's where they're going to put a lot of change, and we've seen really snippets of that in the pre-season. They're going to be really tough and strong defensively. They're very physical, they're very athletic, and then I think the offense will just flow from there.
The fact Mody Mayo wanted to get back to their Kiwi roots coming into this upcoming season. Not surprising to see them go out into free agency, grab a couple of Kiwis that have been playing elsewhere around the league and add them to the roster.
It's not easy being an assistant, but it's different. You know, when you finish that game, all the players want to jump in your van when you're driving and you're the assistant coach. Sometimes they don't want to be with the head coach. Now you step into that head coaching role, it's a little bit different. How you develop those relationships and the bonds you have with the players, it's different. And we've seen him on the sidelines express emotions. How is he going to be? Is he going to be the same as a head coach as he was his assistant coach in the way in which we see this flamboyant guy out there?
So I think Will McDowell-White is primed for a massive breakout season. I think he's an NBA talent. I think we've seen what he can do when he's up and firing. He had a triple-double when he first signed with the NBL a couple of seasons ago.
And we saw glimpses of it last season as well. This year, he's got to go to another level, assume greater responsibility, and he's a pass-first type point guard that can see things that not everyone can see.
He's going to get the keys to the offense, which he didn't have completely last season. What can he do with that? I think he's going to continue to build throughout the season, and the sky's the limit for Will McDowell-White.
Here's Rayan Repair. It's been a bright spot for the Breakers tonight, no doubt about that. Rayan Repair is a talent, and he is a potential first-round pick, maybe even a lottery pick in the NBA draft next season. He's a defensive hound, 6'8". He's got a 7'3" wingspan. He's got great defensive instincts, so he'll steal your cookies if you're not careful around him.
It is going to be unbelievable when you get Will McDowell.
This is what we're talking about. Steal, and he's on the rim. No matter what happens this season from a wins and losses perspective, this is going to be a great season for the New Zealand Breakers. The fact that they're going to be back home at Spark Arena in front of Breaker Nation, playing a full slate of home games, I think they're already winning.
The sky was the limit, with Melbourne United standing tall, finishing the home and away season 2 games clear on top of the ladder. With the championship in their grasp, the NBL final series highlighted just how even the competition is.
It's an interesting one for Melbourne United, because actually talking to a lot of them throughout the off-season, whenever you mention anyone from Tasmania or even the state Tasmania, they didn't want to talk about it. It's something that still scars them, but I'm sure it's something that's going to motivate them. It was a surprising exit to everybody in Australian basketball. That lingering question's going to be there. When it gets to finals time next year, it's going to pop up. Okay, they struggled last season. How do they get over the line? But it's something that I think will just motivate them to take another leap.
Switch everything. Long two. What a pass.
When you've lost a leader like Matthew Dellavedova, Joe Luala-Chul, and one of the sensations of the last couple of seasons in Jack White, that is hard to replace.
Elbows in basketball. That's Darren Lucas, one of the all-time great defenders.
There we go.
Man, they are massive losses. And to lose all 3 in one go, elite Aussie talent, leaves a massive hole in that roster. So the way they cover for them, they recruit imports. Last year, they only had 1 import on their team. This year, they've got 3. So Xavier Rattan-Mays, Rajan Tucker, Jordan Caroline, that's the way Melbourne United have pivoted their roster over the off-season to cover for those big losses. Wants to take Robinson down low, isolated on the block. Robinson plays it tough, but Tucker sticks the fadeaway and he tells Robinson all about it.
Rajon Tucker's an excitement machine. Just seeing glimpses of him in the preseason, he's fiery. He really gets up and in the defender's nose as well. But he's also just a straight bucket getter, the leading scorer for the Wisconsin Herd all time in the G League.
I mean, he is an incredible athlete, and he's going to be above the rim at every single opportunity. If you see him out on the break ahead of the pack, buckle up, because he's going to put some people on some posters.
He comes in with a point to prove, and he's still so young. He wants to have a legitimate crack in the NBA, and he knows that a strong season here in the NBL will give him an opportunity to do that. So Ray John Tucker is going to be on everybody's watch list and potentially an MVP watch list.
Chris Goulding's still the man for Melbourne United. Face of the franchise, he's the captain, he's the guy that's led them to a couple of championships. And look, when push comes to shove, late in big games, the ball's going to be in Chris Goulding's hand.
Wala Chul, and now Goulding, who's overdue.
I think the big key for Melbourne United is, can Isaac Humphries hold up?
He was back in Adelaide, he was playing alongside Josh Giddey and was exceptional. I think up until round 10 was a leading Defensive Player of the Year candidate as well as an MVP candidate.
That player that got a look in with the Orlando Magic in the NBA, that 6'10" presence, down low, protect the rim.
If they can get him healthy, get him fit, I think he's going to be a huge piece for them because they've got a young big man in Ariel Hook-Porty. He's going to have to slot in alongside and try and get that tandem 1-2 punch. That's a big risk versus reward because he's known to be injury prone, and if they don't have that, then they leave themselves a bit shallow in the front court. And the other one's probably Xavier Rattan-Mays. That's a big risk versus reward based on what we saw last season. He's an offensive weapon. I think he can score with the best of them, can get a bucket whenever he needs, but he needs to have the ball in his hand to be successful. I think Shea Ili will probably start for Melbourne United, which means Rattan-Mays will probably be fighting out for best sixth man amongst the league, can come in, create his own offense, and that's ultimately what Melbourne United missed last season. Not enough offensive weapons on the bench.
I think Dean Vickerman's got a lot of tools to work with, and a lot of people writing them off or suggesting that they're not going to be as strong as they have been the last couple of seasons. I don't fall into that camp. If they've got enough talent, if they can get it all together, they can again contend for a title.
Perth lit up the record books with an MBS record of 35 consecutive years playing in the NBL finals. All good things must eventually come to an end though, and that's what happened when the Perth Wildcats came oh so close to making it 36.
And the unthinkable has happened.
Oh, I think the Red Army can expect to be back in the postseason this year. I mean, that was not what they're used to in Western Australia, having that team miss the finals after 3.5 decades of being in there year in, year out.
And even last season where they missed out on the players, what were they, 16 and 12? I mean, they didn't have a bad season. It was just one where at the top of the table was so evenly balanced, and they were the unlucky ones that missed out.
Yes, your final streak's ended. Really, now it's a fresh start completely. So the final streak's over. Let's build up from what made us the most successful sporting organisation in Australia. We bring in John Rillie, one of the most highly touted coaches in Australia at the time.
I'm fascinated to see how John Riley's going to go as a head coach in this league. I think he's going to be terrific. It was a great hire from the Wildcats. And I think he's going to have a team that's fun to watch offensively, like he was as a player, but is tough, gritty, and kept accountable at the defensive end, which really, they're the recipes for success in this league.
I do want to address the defense, the way I would like to play. I think offense will take care of itself. They were a very good offensive team last year, and there's a lot of the same members coming back. So rebounding and defense, and then that'll just propel the offense as well. So everyone, whether they're an import or the Australian content, they're going to understand that we need to play some defense to catapult our offense.
They've recruited well. Brady Manick is a good player. Played at Oklahoma for many years. He's been involved in high-pressure situations.
The arrow continues to point straight up for Luke Travers. It's going to be fun to watch him this season. He's got the confidence after being drafted into the NBA by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And we've seen him in the open court and how he can create things and do things that you can only do when you've been born with tremendous DNA, which he has been with his athleticism.
They've got offensive talent, don't worry about that. Bryce Cotton will fill it up, so will Brady Manick. But can they consistently get stops and dominate the rebound count? that will help them get back to the postseason.
I think Perth get back into the finals by buying into John Riley's system. He's been really vocal about what he's trying to implement in terms of on-court performance, and it's not going to take much. I mean, we look at it last year, yes, they missed out, but they were very close to continuing that streak. Not a whole lot has to change. You've had some big overhauls in terms of coaches and rosters, just buying into the system, playing for one another, and the Red Army's going to help them get there, you'd think. Anytime
you're coming and you've got Bryce Cotton on your team, if a new coach coming into the competition, you're feeling good because you've got a player that's a proven winner.
I think Bryce Cotton's only knows one way, and that is to be the superstar that he is. Put some nice pieces around him, some more depth in terms of the front court with Brady Manick and Tayshaun Thomas. I think that'll take a lot of pressure off what he can do. But if players are knocking down shots, then you can't put your entire defensive eyes on Bryce Cotton, which is going to let him do his thing. And I think he knows deep down that he's one MVP and a couple of championships away from not just being the greatest importer of all time, but being one of the greatest NBL players we've seen of all time.
Cotton for the win!
The gateway to the south coast of New South Wales is the home to the only remaining foundation club in the NBL. Coming off 2 consecutive finals campaigns, the Illawarra Hawks have their prey in sight. With a new coach at the helm and a new look roster, can they take the next step?
Oh man, Jacob Jackjumpers has huge shoes to fill in Illawarra this season. Very hard to follow Brian Goorjian, the greatest coach in NBL history.
Probably one of the toughest tasks in basketball to come in and take over the reins of the GOAT. Came in for 2 years and just added to his successful final streak. He comes back from Asia, makes the finals 2 years in a row and then departs. So now Jackjumpers has to come in and try and find a way to make that happen. But as he said, if you try and copy what Brian Goorjian does, you're going to fail. And he basically said, I'll take little learnings here and there, but I want to do this my own way.
But ultimately, he has been influenced heavily by Brian Goorjian, and there's no one in the competition you want to be more influenced by as a coach than Brian Goorjian.
It's almost like stepping into the Batman suit after Christian Bale. You know, I mean, Christian Bale was great in that role, and it's very hard to be as good a Batman as he was, but you can still be pretty good. I mean, Robert Pattinson was pretty good as Batman, so I think that's the challenge for Jacob Jackjumpers. Be your own Batman this season.
Tyler Harvey and Justin Robinson, I think, going to be an exciting backcourt for the Hawks. I mean, 2 lefty slingers, if you want to call it that. When they get rolling, shooting the ball, I think they're going to fill it up on any given night.
Froling will wait for Harvey. He wants to get to that left hand and just a little floater straight up. Nice start for him.
Justin Robinson, I think, is a really good point guard. He's going to find him. He's a real pass-first guy who can fill it up himself. Scoring-wise, I think they're going to be able to be a nice little 1-2 punch, work well off each other. But ultimately, they're going to have to carry a massive load on the offensive end. The Illawarra Hawks lost 4 of their 5 leading scorers from last season. Yes, it provides opportunity to the younger guys, but you need 2 legitimate scoring guys in this league to be able to get some things done.
But if those 2 can be a dynamic duo and fill it up together most nights over the course of the season, they're going to be highly competitive.
We know Tyler Harvey, he is an elite three-point shooter. He's also very crafty in the way in which he can create his own shot.
I think there's probably 2 players from Illawarra besides Harvey and Robertson who need to have big seasons, and that's Sam Froling. His trajectory has been exceptional since becoming a professional. He made his Boomers debut. Confidence is sky high. I think he's going to have to take a little bit more ownership on the offensive end and being consistently scoring the ball. And the other one is Mango Mathiang, a player who comes in coming off some pretty bad injuries. Can he dominate in the league as a big man? He's going to come up against Aaron Baines. He's going to come up against these bigger bodies. He wants to get back to the NBA. He's only had a brief stint there. He's now healthy. Can he produce on the biggest level? We're about to find out.
Now in transition, that's a nice little play.
I mean, he has the ability and the talent to be one of the best players in this league. He's a guy that's been operating right on that NBA fringe over the past 5 years. And if he can come to the NBL and tear it up, it's exactly what the Hawks need.
This Illawarra team, we've seen the last couple of seasons what they're capable of doing under Brian Goorjian. This team on paper, I think, is just as talented as we've seen of the last couple of seasons of the Illawarra Hawks. I think that they should have got a lot to be excited about.
on the block in NBL23, the Tasmania Jackjumpers came so close to pulling off the unthinkable and holding up that championship trophy. They're back for season 2, and with a sold-out membership, can the Apple Isle produce a sequel that goes one better?
What a fairy tale it was last season. I mean, they make the grand final series in their first ever time in the league.
They were really like a sports movie. They caught lightning in a bottle in that season. Everything came together for that team and they made it all the way to the grand final series. Can they back it up? It's really hard to do in sports, to have that kind of season and then do it all over again. That's the challenge for Scott Roth and this squad.
This year, the Jackjumpers, they're not going to catch anyone off guard because we saw what they're capable of doing last season. We saw how their home court became this fortress because of the way in which the fans engaged.
Tasmanian Jackjumpers fans are probably the most passionate we've seen for some time. That place is like a EuroLeague atmosphere when it gets up and about. Memberships sell out in 26 minutes, which just speaks to how desperate they are to have a pro sports team down in Tassie. I think they've all embraced the Jackjumpers. Everyone's going to come out and want to silence the Jackjumpers, and I'm expecting Scott Roth to make sure they're ready for the challenge. I think Josh Magette might find himself in a better situation in terms of the other pieces they've brought in, with Doyle and Kelly as their other import scorers. Magette will have more opportunity to try and facilitate, control a game. That's what he does well. He's not a massive scoring guard, but he can really control a game. He can lead from the front. Got selected as a vice captain for the Jackjumpers to part of their leadership group, and he has the benefit of already understanding how the NBL is played. As I've said, it's not like a league anywhere else in the world, so now he understands that. I'm expecting a massive year from Josh Magette.
Josh Magette is fortunate for the Jackjumpers to have a point guard coming back that's been there, done that. He's experienced. He's seen the absolute pinnacle of it in a championship series. And the way in which that he runs the team, he's an elite player.
Yes, they had Josh Adams last year as a star, but it was all their role players stepping up when it mattered most. Matt Kenyon had a breakout year. Fabian Krizlovic comes in when Will Magnay goes down. Everybody just stepped up when they had to, and everybody wrote them off. They found a way to succeed.
In comes Milton Doyle, who is a silky smooth operator and a guy who can score at a high level. Can he be as good as Josh Adams? Can he be better? That's going to tell the tale for Tassie this season.
Hustle on the glass. Doyle, oh, nice finish with the left.
And of course, Will Magnay, who comes back in after injury-plagued season last season where he didn't get to play. So he is a big-time player that can have a profound impact on the league. So if they can get the best out of him and continue to get that natural improvement with some of their younger guys.
Once again, everybody's going to be writing off the Jackjumpers, think it's impossible to do it 2 years in a row. They don't want it any other way. That's the only way they know how to thrive, back against the wall. Scott Roth can make that happen.
They're going to be a handful again. Not too many people again this season are going to have the Jackjumpers in the top 6. I don't. But I think I'm a fool for not picking it based on what we saw last season and the way in which that they were able to just ride this incredible wave of emotion.
The Jackjumper fans have quickly become one of the best fan bases in the league. It took them 26 minutes, Tassie, to sell out their season memberships during the off-season. So that's a cauldron down there at MyState Bank Arena, and they can expect a team that's going to play hard for them every single possession. That's what Scott Roth demands, that's what they did in year 1, and that's what they'll do in year 2.
Up in the beautiful tropics of far north Queensland, the Cairns Taipans have secured their engine room, with McCall and Pinder staying on to lead the charge. Coach Ford has put in a big off-season to build a roster around his 2 champions and give the Orange Army a reason to cheer.
It's going to be an interesting season for Cairns this year. I think Adam Ford loves to play an energetic and fun style of basketball with the young guys that he continues to find and to try and unleash on the rest of the league.
They've gone for a bit of a youth movement and they've brought in some kind of young, exciting talent. You want to watch Cairns Taipans games this season, I think, because they got some exciting players. They got a whole bunch of guys who are on the rise.
Adam Ford's shown that he has an eye for talent. He's unlocked some special guys last year.
Tajuu McCall is one of those guys that's so versatile. We saw him last season. He was a triple-double waiting to happen. And he can bring so much to the Cairns Taipans.
We're already, I think, stage 2 in the fact that we wanted to recruit competitive dudes. Now we've got them here and it's trying to get them all together. You know, be competitive, compete for every possession. Don't worry about the result, but bring it for practice, bring it for games. Once we get an understanding of what that competitiveness is like, then we get wins, and then we start stringing wins together, and now we're adding consistency. And for us to be consistently winning games, now we're in playoff contention, and now we're in the playoffs, and now we're talking championship aspirations. Now, I feel confident that we're trending in the direction that we need to go in.
DJ Hogue is a fascinating guy for the NBL this season. He's got some NBA experience, he's got some championship winning experience in the G League, and he's got some European experience, and how well all that translates into the NBL is going to be big.
Probably Lat Mayen is someone that really interests me from the Taipans. He's a rookie coming in, he's played over in the States, he was part of the Centre of Excellence program. He's an exciting talent, but he just loves to work hard, and that's another one that just epitomises what Adam Forde is building up in Cairns. I think Fordy's going to love being able to unlock and unleash what Lat Mayen's potential can be.
And he did that last season with a couple of key guys, Bull Qual, Rookie of the Year, Keanu Pinder, Most Improved. And so he wants to turn the Taipans into a destination club where if you want to take the next step in your career, you come to Far North Queensland.
I'm interested to see how Qual and Pinder go this year based on how remarkably successful their season was last year. The most improved player, the Rookie of the Year, all of a sudden you go from flying under the radar to now everybody knows how good you can be. So they're not going to catch anybody sleeping. Again, they're in the perfect situation where Adam Forde wants to build on their success. He wants to build on what makes them so incredibly successful.
The home court advantage for the Cairns Taipans is huge. And then you've got this raucous fan base that get out there that's different to pretty much most other places that you play in the NBL. They're right up on you. You go to a timeout and you've got a row right behind you, and sometimes they can get a little agitated and very vocal with their support for the home team.
What excites me most about the Taipans is the youth that's coming through. The trajectory is really exciting for Australian basketball, and Adam Forde's shown that he can unlock something special with these young fellas.
Kings shone bright being crowned champions in NBL23. With several key departures, the question is, can they go back-to-back in NBL23 and deliver more silverware to the trophy cabinet?
I think they've done it incredibly well to find the perfect puzzle pieces to fit with all three imports departing last season. Yeah, we talk about Jalen Adams disappearing, but so did Jarrell Martin and Ian Clark.
Adams for Martin. Oh! Big stuff.
They've brought in Derek Walton Jr. as the guy to play point guard this season and fill that spot. And I think he's going to be really good. I think a lot of people may be sleeping on how good he's going to be. A bit of a different player to Jalen Adams, less of a scorer, much more of a facilitator, but he led the G League in assists last season at nearly 10 a game.
Physically, he might be the most dominant point guard in the league, but he's going to get guys open like Vasiljevic. He's going to get Xavier Cooks the ball where he has to be successful. Justin Simon's already a proven defender. He won Best Defensive Player when he played for the Hawks last season. He'll come in with a point to prove. And then Tim Saw is a stretch big who can knock down the three. Those players are really valuable in the NBL.
They get Geordie Hunter back. The year before last, his trajectory and what he was doing was fantastic. He was looking like he was going to be a guy that can have a significant role on a championship winning team. Now, he never had that opportunity because of injury last season, but he'll be primed, ready to go.
It's really hard to go back-to-back. We've only seen it 8 times over the course of NBL history.
They're going to have a target on their backs, though, from the moment the season tips off, and they've got to be prepared for that. But Chase Buford's the type of guy that's going to make them locked in every single night. They want that challenge. They're hungry for that challenge. They think they're the best roster in the league. They've got enough talent to do so.
To win the championship, I think we're going to have to be even tougher and harder in all our habits and principles than we were a year ago, because there's a target on our back now. And nothing that we did last year is going to carry us this year. But we're going to have to play that much better, knowing every team's going to come at us that much harder.
Well, Chase is a high-level coach. Comes from incredible pedigree in the NBA. His dad, R.C. Buford, legendary NBA executive. And he came in to the NBL last season, won a title in year one, like it was all too easy.
Chase Buford's system, I think, is going to really allow players to thrive. It's a fun style of basketball. When the team got rolling, everybody came along for the ride.
The fun thing about Chase Buford, though, he's a little excitable. So the challenge for him this year is to strike that balance. Make sure you stay passionate for your team and you ride the highs and lows of a ball game, but also control your emotions and not let that get out of control.
Well, everyone's chasing you now because you are the big dog, because you are the defending champion. And you're never going to get a game off. Everyone's measuring themselves against you because you won a championship.
We've also got the MVP favourite in my eyes in Xavier Cooks, ready for an incredible season after what's been a remarkable 18 months for himself.
He was unbelievable last season. Grand final MVP, finished the year with 10 straight double-doubles. I mean, he was a machine to close out that season. And I think he's going to go to another level.
He can beat you in so many different ways, and beyond his skill sets, which have been there for all of us to see over the last couple of seasons, he brings a competitive spirit. He brings a bit of nasty about the way in which he goes about it.
He wants to get to the NBA, and I love that he just bet on himself. He chose not to go to the NBA Summer League. He's been there. He knows he's an NBA-level talent. Goes over to the New Zealand NBL in the off-season and just straight up dominates, walks away with the league MVP. I think he'll definitely be contending for an MVP this season. Without a doubt, the best two-way player in the league, and I'm expecting him to get some more NBA looks after this year.
Can the Sydney Kings go back-to-back? Yes. Will they? Jeez, it's going to be hard to do.
The countdown is on. All 10 teams start the season equal. Players' and fans' hopes and dreams are a reality. Which teams will surprise and which will disappoint? The questions remain unanswered except for one, and that is that this season is shaping to be the biggest and best in NBL history. NBL23 unrivaled.